Hello and welcome to Become the Teapot. I'm Iain.
And so am I.
This is a podcast where we compare films to the comic books that inspired them. As January comes to an end, so too must X month. But we've got one more film to cover before Ryanuary becomes Assorted Comic Books and Films-uary. Okay, Iain, so Deadpool 2. I'm right in saying that Deadpool is a favourite character of yours.
Indeed.
Are your feelings as strong for Deadpool 2 as they are for Deadpool 1?
Yeah, it's still really, really good. I love it. It's still funny. They've gone for bigger, and that doesn't always mean it'll be better.
Yeah.
But I think it works.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you. They've gone bigger, certainly. Probably like double the budget on this one. For me, though, so this is only the second time I've watched Deadpool 2.
Really?
The first being when it was out in the cinema. And my overwhelming memory of that when I watched it was that the film was somewhat disappointing for me.
I can see it.
Yeah. Watching it again, it wasn't as bad as I remember, I don't think. But I certainly don't enjoy it anywhere near as much as I do the first.
Yeah. I think the first does a really good job of being an origin story, but not doing the same sort of traits. It makes fun of itself.
Yeah.
This is a little bit of the sequelitis, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. You know, in the first one, we talked about it last week, it sort of devolves into a generic superhero film in the third act when it has to sort of wrap things up. But up until that point, it's quite anarchic and different in a way. This just feels throughout like it is stock formula superhero movie.
Yeah.
And also, I think, we talked about it last episode again, I understand why someone might find Deadpool annoying. I like the first one, but I understand why someone might not. And I think the intense level of irreverence can be grating, but that film balanced it. For me, the sequel doesn't quite strike the right balance.
Yeah, it can be a little bit all over the place. I will say that I think this one's more brutal, as in the fight scenes and the killing and all of this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's that montage that I was talking about. He kills a lot of people in very horrible, horrible ways, but yet it's still funny.
You say it's funny. I that may be my problem with this film, is that I wasn't laughing enough during it. There's a lot of jokes, but I didn't find it that funny. And after a while, that when, you know, someone keeps popping out jokes, and first of all, someone needs to tell the writers that just a reference is not a joke. It's the same thing as Family Guy. Just mentioning something that exists does not constitute a comedy. There's a lot of that, and it comes a little bit grating. It's just like, okay, can you formulate a joke? There's some funny stuff in there when they actually play on the X-Men references, but have some sort of humour there rather than just mentioning them and moving on. I'm now struggling to think of any example whatsoever, but there's some funny stuff in there. But yeah, for me, it just wasn't funny. I mean, first of all, like you say, it's a bit of a lazy sequelitis. It's the working title for this film for a long, long time, up until they announced Deadpool 2 as the name of it, is a lazy name, by the way, was Untitled Deadpool Sequel, and I think that would have been a far funnier name for this film. I think they should have kept that. And then I got to say, the plot, you know, we talked about fridging in our third episode.
I was going to bring this up, actually.
Yeah.
I was going to say it's her death, as in Vanessa's death. I'm pretty sure that's an example of putting women in the freezer. In the fridge.
The refrigerator. Yeah, no, it's a textbook definition. In fact, the film manages to not only do it for Vanessa, but they also managed to do it for Cable's wife and child. Oh, yeah. So the sole motivation for all of the men characters in this film is because of their dead wives. And the sole motivation for the only woman character in this film, really, Domino, is that she doesn't really know why she's there and she's just going along with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it even calls it out as fridging in the film. It does in the opening credits, I know that. I don't know if they necessarily call it fridging. And also, there's several times in the film where he says that's just lazy writing.
Yeah.
But calling out the fact that your writing is lazy does not make it any less lazy. Just throwing in a joke about it, you know, why don't you just write a better script then? I think that this is the thing it's the Fox thing, isn't it? Which we've seen several times before. We've covered it on this podcast. It's a Fox rush job. So they accidentally have a hit. It catches them all by surprise. They go, oh, that made more money than we thought. And then they churn out a sequel within 2 years.
Yeah.
We saw it with Days of Future Past, and then they made X-Men Apocalypse. I think that was 2 years apart. Fantastic Four, again, churned out within 2 years.
Yep.
And in fairness, that Fox aren't the only studio who are guilty of that as well. But, you know, we sort of Iron Man and Iron Man 2.
And also with John Wick.
Yeah.
Because the first one was just like a hit, and then they're like, oh, okay, well, quick, let's just churn out 2 more.
Exactly.
And a 4th one's coming.
The 4th one's coming. The 3rd one is a complete waste of time. It starts and finishes at exactly the same point. It's 2 hours of him running around and the plot doesn't change. And it just becomes more tiresome the more Superman-y he is. Anyway, that's talking about John Wick. I don't think this film is as bad as, say, Fantastic Four 2 or X-Men Apocalypse or anything like that. But it does feel like that sort of lazy sequel. Oh, crap. We haven't written anything. We've got to write a script, make a film, all within the space of 2 years to capitalise on this success.
Yeah.
And that rarely turns out well. Have you got anything else to say about the film before we move on to the comic book?
Well, a character that I was quite surprised that was in it the first time that I saw it was big old Juggernaut.
Oh, yeah, we probably should speak about him, yeah.
Which, I mean, I'm not sure if you know this, but it was voiced by Ryan Reynolds.
Yes, I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Modelled on the director, David Leitch. The face was modelled on the director, apparently. The bits you could see.
Well, yeah.
Big old flappy mouth and eyes. But, yeah, I remember seeing an interview about this with Ryan Reynolds, or it may have been the director, I can't remember. Someone had said that Juggernaut was done dirty in The Last Stand, which is true.
Yeah.
And that they wanted to do him right. But, I mean, I suppose he's better here.
Yeah, it's an improvement for sure.
I mean, yeah, it's an improvement, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily done right, because he's basically a side character who ends up with an electrical cable shoved up his arse. I mean, it's not like it's treating the character with great reverence, is it?
No.
The character who, nothing could stop the Juggernaut and then is regularly stopped over and over again every time he starts moving. Colossus and Juggernaut in the comics have had these big clashes a lot, and it was a big thing to see those two characters fight on the big screen. It's nice to see, but generally speaking, when those two clashed, Colossus loses.
Yeah.
Because Juggernaut is unstoppable.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is certainly an improvement over Vinnie Jones with a funny rock on his head.
You're still here? Next month is over. Go home. Chicka chicka.